billionaire through assets, a billionaire through debt, not liquid, okay? Now his wife, Beyonce, is a little bit different. Beyonce is treading that fine line of being the old record company slave type of artist, right? That has to sing, dance and perform for the rest of their life. And then the Jay-Z type of artist that can leverage this fame into something else. Travis Smith podcast or Travis Smith podcast. Why? Because it's the best kept secret. It's a reality show for a real person doing real thing. And if you like this show, you might support this show by liking, subscribing, sharing, and that helps channels like mine, small channels, permeate the YouTube algorithm and come up on your subscribe page and your browse page, right? Not only do you help small channels, you keep freedom of speech free. Why? Because we're just geezers in the van talking, unpolitically correctly. Or talking, you get the point, right? We just don't care. We're just telling it like it is, right? If I can say that, can I say that? Who cares, right? Anyway, what are we doing here today? You know what we're doing here today. Let's see what we're doing today.
The big deal back then is ever since my third album, I wasn't really taking large advances from the recording companies. I was recording the albums myself in my own studio. So the way I looked at it, I owned the work because I paid for it. And I did all the work. I created it, so I felt like it should belong to me. That said, the companies felt otherwise. They would always hold this contract up and say, well, you signed it. And I say, well, I understand that. It's not like I want to leave. I just want to, talk about this thing and see if we can't make it more fair. Of course, they would change, because if they change, they wouldn't really exist. And that's kind of the situation we're in right today. They're not going to exist much longer. Big deal.
Okay. More shady music business. Good God Almighty, right? So, if you're new here, you probably missed the episode of Music Mafia, right? Where I break down quite a bit of the shady music industry practices, right? Not a lot, just a very surface level of it, right? So if you want to go and check that out now, go and check that out now before you watch this, right? Because I'm probably not going to get that deep into it again, and I'm not going to cover what I've already covered, yeah? Because what's the point, right? We're not going to change it. Maybe we could change it, you know what? I was being a defeatist then, wasn't I? Maybe we can actually stick it to the corpos and change things a bit. Hey, who knows, right? Little things, domino effect into big things, like big world. Big world. Anyway, forget that, yeah. So, who was that speaking? That was Prince. The artist Prince, right? You may know him, you may not have known him, right? A little short guy, dresses in purple, right? Brilliant musician, brilliant songwriter, right? But in terms of popularity, he's very niche, right? It's only a certain group or types of people that know him. Yes, he had big, massive hits, right? And people have covered his songs that have made them big, massive hits, right? But a lot of people don't know Prince wrote these songs anyway, right? So a little bit of background on Prince from what I know from a shallow surface level, right? Growing up as a little kid, I was not allowed to listen to Prince, right? And probably for good reason, right? Because Prince's music is quite highly sexualized. Don't ask me why. That's just what the weird guy was into, right? So some of his songs are quite, I'm about to say milquetoast, right? Or just in the middle, right? Middle of the road, right? Not too sexualized, not too Christian, right? Just R&B, blues, kind of rock and roll, pop music, right? And others are at the extremes of both of those ends, right? But I guess that's kind of what made him special in the first place. Now, my older brothers, sisters, and cousins and that, they were listening to Prince, right? That's their generation, right? They grew up listening to Prince, so they would always listen to Prince going forward. But although I was way younger, right? I was born in the 90s, so even though Prince existed, my age group, and even people that are still being born now, right? We listen to Michael Jackson, right? So yeah, there's that age-old battle between Prince and Michael Jackson, which really isn't the same thing, right? Now, I don't know where or when in Hollywood or in the music industry where that matchup got brought, but I never listened to Prince as a kid, right? So I was a Michael Jackson fan, right? Everyone's a fucking Michael Jackson fan. You know you're a Michael Jackson fan, innit? We're not even going to get into all of the sus stuff, right? Just keep it very surface for today, anyway, yeah? For today. We might come back for you, come back for you guys, anyway. But there's the age-old battle between Prince and Michael Jackson. Now, at the time when Michael Jackson's biggest album came out, I believe, right, in my opinion, I don't have the historical facts, but ideally, I've looked at it retrospectively. So we can say, arguably, Thriller is Michael Jackson's biggest solo album, right? After the Jackson 5 and all of that. Now, and Prince, people say that, I think it's 999, I don't know, man, Purple Rain, one of them, yeah? Like I said, I'm not really a big Prince fan, but I've recently learned more about Prince, right? So, Prince lovers, Prince fanatics, don't hate me, yeah? I'm just making a point here, anyway. But yeah, Prince was already making music solo before Michael Jackson was, right? And I noticed this the other day when I listened to some of Prince's songs, right? I think the album called Prince is a blue cover, right? And it's got some like wavy hair on it, right? I don't know what the album's called, but I like about 3 or 4 songs of that. But anyway, when I listened to the album, I heard a lot of things and I thought, oh my, I've heard that sound before, right? I've heard that riff, heard that melody. And then it clicked. That is in Michael Jackson's song on Thriller, right? But then I looked at the date differences, when this was made and when that was made, and I thought, now I see why the controversy may have been there. And Controversy is a good song too, right? But anyway, the reason why a man like Prince is so highly respected by musicians and even fans of music is because he actually went and learned the instruments, multiple different instruments, played, recorded, overdubbed his own songs, right, and made it all himself, like he was just saying. But whereas Michael Jackson had the biggest producer known to mankind, right, Quincy Jones, he had Rod Temple, and any session musician you could ever want, everything, right? Just imagine the unlimited resources Michael Jackson had at his disposal when making Thriller and all of those amazing albums at that time, right? But even though he had these unlimited resources and all of these people making music for him, they were still actually stealing sounds from popular songs and lesser known songs. And one of those people being Prince, right? And I know it's controversial me saying it, but you can actually go and listen to what Prince was making in the 70s, right? After he's left the band, I forgot what that band's called, right? And he starts making music on his own. You can actually listen to his songs, right? And hear certain melodies, hear certain riffs, and then listen to Michael Jackson's album, which is much later, and hear those same riffs and the same melodies, right? And other artists that were permeating the music industry at that time, right? The 80s, late 70s sound. But the thing is, why Prince was making that point there is he actually went and done it himself, right? Of course, there's other people that play on his albums, right? He didn't do, like, he played live as well, so other people had to play instruments. But for the most part of what we know or what's been propagandized to us, he played almost everything on all of his albums, right? Early ones, anyway. So yeah, if we look at it from that point of view, right? The big Michael Jacksons in the world, right? And they still exist, the big artists today, right? They have those monstrous unlimited resource teams, right, with anybody and anything you can ever want, but yet they don't create the stuff themselves, right? A man like Prince is saying, nah, I wanted to, like, there was an anecdote that I heard, and it was like, on his first album they offered him a producer, and it was like, this producer's gonna do this and that and do this and that, and he's like, nah, I'm gonna do it like this and that, I'm doing it my way, right? I'm gonna pay for a studio time over here in this place where you don't want me to be, and I'm gonna do it there, right? That was his mentality. Although we can objectively, as critics and as fans, all look and say, hey, even though Prince done so much on his own, we still would never know Prince if it wasn't for all these other people, right? All the record label deals, all the videos, all of the fame, all the success, all the paparazzi, all of that, right? We wouldn't know Prince if it wasn't for these other people, right? So we have to acknowledge that. Although he done a lot on his own, not everyone that is creative and capable enough to do music on their own gets to become a Prince, right? And not everyone that has all the resources in the world gets to become Michael Jackson. It just doesn't go like that, right? Music industry politics is music industry politics. What it really is pageantry, right? Popularity contests. This guy is liked. He doesn't have to be good at what he does. He's just liked. So because we like him, we'll get him whatever he needs. Make people believe in him even if it's garbage, right? That's just standard shady music business practice. Now, back to Prince. Prince isn't trash, right? He isn't trash. He makes music of an acquired taste, right? You have to get to a point in your life or have grown up listening to that kind of music to be able to appreciate the funk and the blues and the songwriting, the lyrics, the melodies, and how he actually made music. Like, one time I was sitting back and analysing a Prince song, and I was like, alright, if he played all of this on his own, right, I was analysing how he did his harmonies, right, how many times he stacked his voice, like, so he stacked his own voice about 5 or 6 times, overdubbing it, right, it would have been tape. But I was analysing how he would have made the instrumental, right, because one of the songs has a blatant stop in it, right, you know when you have a break, like a DJ hits break and it's just silence? If he was playing all the instruments on that album, and it's obvious to me now, but at the time when I was thinking about it, it wasn't so obvious. All he would have had to do is lay down the main track, lay down the drum track, lay down the bass, a guitar, whatever, piano, right? And he's got his basic there. Then me being me, I thought, how is he doing that such a precise cut, right? Obviously, him or the engineer was just pressing solo when he was doing it, right? So the other stuff would just cut out, and it would sound like a whole functioning band together, making a break. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's music production talk. If you want more talk like that, let me know, and we'll probably do that over at CNC CMI, right? Not on Drivers Mate Podcast. But anyway, so for like I was just saying, Prince doing all of that stuff on his own, right? He made a point. Although he didn't have to pay for a producer, he didn't have to pay for musicians, but he did have to let the record company get their rights to distribute his music, right? Because he didn't do it himself. So that's where that contract comes into play. We don't get a famous Prince without the record label. So yes, they are entitled to their fair share of his earnings, right? Because they are making him popular. They're not making him who he is, but they're making him who he is to the public, right? You don't get Prince without a record label, right? Simple as that. Because there's millions of Princes in the world, right, that we'll never hear of because they ain't got the push from a record label. So acknowledging that, right, objectively, and taking away the whiny music industry artist or woe is me part of it, right? Because remember, this guy went through a stage of changing his name completely so they couldn't do whatever they want to do with his rights, right? Writing slave on his face, all kinds of nonsense, right, that this man did. But in objectively looking at it from a working class perspective, he's just a whiny cunt, right? But then subjectively looking at it, you can see, no, actually, he has a point, right? Because your rights can get stolen or sold in perpetuity, right? Meaning you will never own anything that comes from this again, right? Which is bad business for an artist, for an actor, for a creative, a director, a producer. No matter what it is, if it's intellectual property, the rights should always revert back to the creator, right? Even if you lease it for a period of time, or you let a record company distribute it and collect publishing off of it, however you go about it, right? Your rights should be your rights, especially if you played every goddamn piece of music on that record, right? You deserve the credit, right? And you deserve the finance. So there's another part where he's arguing, where he's on an interview and he's saying basically, Mariah Carey, I think it was, got the biggest deal ever in the music industry, right? But she got all this money up front, right? Which is called an advance, and an advance is a loan. What the label? So basically, just think of a label like this, right? They're an intermediary, right, between you, the artist, and your audience, and then between you, the artist, and the bank, right? So what the label does is looks at your product, sees its potential value, looks at all the channels it can sell it through, right, and push it and promote it, and says, right, we think this is worth this, we think we can make this much off the back of it, even if we finesse the numbers to make sure we get profit, we think we can make this. So they essentially go to a bank or to a financer and say, hey, we need this money up front, and then they give you your cut out of it, your solicitor gets their cut, and then they get their cut, but it's all a loan, right, what they give you up front. So Prince's point was, when he was talking about Mariah Carey in particular, was that she took however much millions up front, right, but she then went on to sell millions and millions and millions of albums, right? She got hardly anything from it, right? So his point was this: although she got a quote-unquote miracle deal up front, on the back end she got fucked, right? Because hey, if I sell something that is up to £1 billion, right, but you only give me 10% of £1 billion and you take the rest, you're fucking me, innit? Even though I got 10% of a billion, yeah, I'm laughing at the front end, but on the back end, I'm weeping, right? And not only that, it's the rights issue. Do you own what you've written, what you sung? Someone else writing your songs? Is someone else playing the instruments? Is, you know what I mean? There's writer splits and all of that. But a man like Prince is saying, hey, not only am I good enough to make all of the music myself, right? I'm confident enough that I'm not going to take an advance from you, right? Or if I do take an advance, it's going to be so small, I can recoup it quickly, right? I can sell enough records, do enough shows, pay you that back quickly, right? So we essentially just end up in a distribution deal. You're selling my music to shops for me, right? And I want my fair cut of my album sales. So if the album sells for £10, I want £8 of it, right? Instead of £2, just for an example, right? So a man like him was kind of revolutionary in the sense of the long-standing shady music business practices, right? Of robbing artists completely, robbing poor musicians and having them in bad contracts and just making them work forever, right? On this ball and chain system. Think about it like this: if you ever saw Space Jam in the 90s, right? And you saw how the little bugs were stealing all the players' powers and putting it into a ball and going off and pretending to be the players, right? There's a scene in Space Jam where Michael Jordan is chained up, the cartoon version of Michael Jordan. He's chained up on a prison planet, right? And he's basically chained to a basketball court and he has to keep playing with his fans, right? And it's a broader commentary on corporate structures in business, in sports and in music and entertainment, right? So Michael Jordan would forever be chained to that court, having to play people from the fans, and not only would he have to play the fans, he would have to lose every time to keep the fans happy and never make a red cent, right? That was the premise of that clip in the cartoon, right? I know I expanded the metaphor, but you can actually go and watch it for yourself, right? That is essentially that Michael Jordan chained to a basketball court or chained to a pair of shoes, right? It's the same thing that happens in the music industry, just unpersonified by cartoon, right? So essentially, they have artists in these bad contracts from the beginning of recorded music to now, right? And they keep them like Mr. Bojangles, right? No offense to whoever out there might take offense, but I'm going to give you an example like this, right? Although we have our Jay-Z's and our Beyonce's, right? These are people that have, well, Jay-Z mostly has managed to leverage this small bit of success and notoriety into other businesses, right? Jay-Z doesn't have to rap and go do shows and make albums all the time. He just doesn't, right? Because he can sit back and laugh on all the other business ventures he has, which actually make him asset rich and not liquid rich, right? Understand that. A billionaire through assets, a billionaire through debt, not liquid, okay? Now his wife, Beyonce, is a little bit different. Beyonce is treading that fine line of being the old record company slave type of artist, right? That has to sing, dance and perform for the rest of their life. And then the Jay-Z type of artist that can leverage this fame into something else. However, we saw what happened with the Adidas branding and all that, right? The same kind of thing Kanye did. It was okay to her poor, like, cult following, but on the wide scale, it means nothing, right? Rihanna's Fenty means way more than anything that Beyonce's produced outside of music, right? And that's just an unbiased, honest opinion, right? You might be a die-hard B fan and be like, nah, couldn't care less, right? But the fact of the matter is this: Beyonce is still performing, still doing shows, still recording and singing music like the old music industry practice, right? Pageantry, showbiz. That's one half of it, and that's cool, right? Because Prince was doing that too. But Prince was doing that same Beyonce thing from a point of view of, hey, I own this, right? The band is mine, the music is mine, I can play when I want, I can go home when I want, I don't have to do anything, right? But I don't know Beyonce's business, so just forget that I use her as an example for this part of it, right? But other artists can't do what Prince is doing on the stage shows, right? They can't decide to do a limited run of just this album. We're just gonna practice and play this album for a tour. We're gonna tour this album, and tonight I'm just gonna play B-sides, and next week I might not even show up, right? And if I do show up, I might just sit down with a guitar, right? That's what the difference is. That's a real musician, right? A real old style musician. Now the two correlate from the Beyonce point of view of singing, dancing, performing, recording, right? Of course Prince does that too, but Prince never really moved into the Jay-Z hemisphere of leveraging. He did early in his career with Purple Rain and all of those kinds of things, but that is where that stopped, right? Now, even in Prince's death, there's arguments about all of the recorded music that he created. Who owns that now, right? Where does that go? The record company still got his fingers in it, right? An album that came out after his death that I listened to recently, it's like, I don't think Prince would have put this out, right? Just by listening to how his other music is and the other things he's done, I don't think he would put this out. But, you know, the record company would. And not only would the record company put it out, they would commodify it so much and memify it, trying to keep up with young culture, that's not a Prince album, right? That's a record company album with Prince on it, right? They may as well have just AI'd his voice in it. But anyway, he was standing up for those kinds of rights and that ability to be a free artist. Make your music, yes, make a deal with the record company, but don't get robbed by the record company. Don't get trapped in perpetuity and have your rights never revert, right? His point was, let's talk to each other, right? We're human beings, right? I know you want to make money and I want to make music, but let's be fair, right? And that is how it should be, right? That was his initial point. Now, look, going back to the Michael Jackson point of view of it, Michael Jackson leveraged all of that fame, all of that power and success, right? And that money. And what did he do with it? He started to buy rights, right? He started to buy the Beatles catalogs. He started to buy Elvis's catalog. He had a big stake or buy-in in Sony and all of these different things, right? So Michael Jackson was a clued up, dangerous brother, but he just went about it in a different way, right? He used that coming up in that old Michael Jordan chain to the basketball court from a child, right? A child performer to an adult, and said, all right, now it's enough. Now it's time to use these resources to make big moves, right? And then you see what happened to Michael Jackson, okay? So there you go. Just think about it like that. You can go that way or you can go this way. It's all dependent on how you think, right? Are you up on your business knowledge? Do you know what's going on, right? Are you a creative like Prince, a real true creative? You play it all, do it all yourself, and just need somewhere to sell it. Or are you like Michael Jackson? I can sing, I can dance, I can perform, but you write the song, you make the beat, you shoot the video, and then I'll appear, I'll turn up, right? There's a difference. But anyway, I really did dive into it probably a bit too much, right? But I'm passionate about this kind of stuff, and I really want to talk about it more. But as usual, time will not permit. So I'm going to leave it there for now as a surface level and tell you flat out, Prince was right, but at the same time, Prince has to honour the contracts and the business that he'd done in the early days, right? Because there was no Prince without record labels and fame and production and all of that as well, right? Even though he whine about it later, he would whine about it later, and like every other famous artist whined about it later, I want my rights back. Well, you signed a contract. You wanted to be famous more than you wanted to own your music, right? So just acknowledge that, right? That's the truth. But anyway, bad business is bad business in any industry you go, and it needs to be stomped out, right? All of the bad people stealing people's signatures, signing things on behalf of people, stealing people's musics, rights, images, right? Things like this, right? It needs to stop, and all of these fraudsters need to be taken out of the industry. And that's my 2 cents on it. You tell me what you think, right? Do you know more about this? Did I enlighten you a bit on how things go, a bit about Prince, a bit about Michael Jackson, a bit about music business? Do you actually care, right? Because you probably don't, right? If I'm being honest, 99% of my time, I don't bloody care, right? Because like I said, you traded your rights, you traded all of that for fame and success. Now you got that, don't whine, leverage it like Jay-Z and do something else, right? Leverage it like Kanye and do something else, right? Stop whining. Otherwise, enough, right? Because me and you, the normal person, we got to go to work and leverage our fucking little bit of resources we have, don't we? So yeah, life is life, people are people, but that shit needs to stop, right? Shady music business is bad business. Go and watch the Music Mafia episode, right? And you understand why I say that. But other than that, at CNC CMI, my main channel, more music kind of stuff over there, right? And if you want me to talk more about music business and what really happens, I'll do it over there. If you would like to see that, let me know. But other than that, sign up to the Patreon, get exclusive content, get the season before it drops on the YouTube schedule, right? You'd have to wait. You could just binge watch them if you care enough, or if you just want to support a person like me for giving you entertainment and information, sign up to the Patreon, right? I don't request any PayPals or bloody whatever kind of donation apps people do, right? I don't really do all of that. If you want to help, sign up to Patreon, okay? But other than that, drivers, mate, Podcast or Travis Mate Podcast. The best kept secret. You know why? You hear all that real shit I just said? Exactly. Normal people ain't gonna tell you that. You know why? Because they're scared. I ain't scared. Anyway, thank you for your time. I hope you enjoy your day. I hope I could have entertained you for a while, maybe educate you. But other than that, check me out on all socials. Please like, subscribe and share. It does help keep freedom of speech free, right? Like I just said, your average podcaster, your average music business bozo is scared to death to talk about what I'm talking about. So anyway, thank you for your time. Travis Mate Podcast, and we're out.